Welcome back to Adventuring for Mere Mortals, Episode 12. This week, Trevor and I reflect on all that we have learned this year, what we can do better in the next, and our vision for the podcast in 2023. Trev, how was the Death Valley trip?
You missed out, dude. Like it was really, really fun time. So yeah, to fill everybody in the last, it's about a week ago. Yeah, about a week ago, I finished a trip where I drove my new electric truck from Bloomington, Illinois, out to Death Valley and Joshua Tree, and it took me 2-ish days to get out there. But yeah, then I picked up two of our friends at the Las Vegas airport on the way there, and we spent, I think, 3 or 4 days in Death Valley, and then basically a day of travel in between, and then a 2.5, 3 days in Joshua Tree. And it was great. Like the desert in the winter is absolutely gorgeous,
especially down there.
I love it.
Joshua Tree is pretty fantastic. How'd the truck do? Did you have to stop every hour or two?
It was about every hour and a half because I was driving kind of fast. And in Kansas, especially, the wind was killing me. Both times I drove through Kansas, it was in the middle of a wind advisory. So the wind was blowing like 30 or 40 miles an hour. Oh, it was rough. And it just killed my efficiency. But yeah, it was like generally every hour and a half, I would stop and charge for like 20 to 25 minutes. Because there's very limited charges in Kansas, and that's kind of what you have to do. Like, even if you're not almost out, you won't make it to the next one. That's like 100 to 100-ish miles away. So wow. It's just how it works. But
so I had an experience with those high wind advisories as well. And why across Wyoming they have the signs. I was following a fifth wheel, and I actually watched the trailer go on 2 wheels.
Oh God!
Twice. Yeah, we came across just outside the Medicine Bows, and it's not we, it's I was driving across. He was in front of me, and he was driving, and all at once, trailer was on 2 wheels, and then he was on the shoulder, and then it slammed down, tipped over the other way, and he corrected. I don't know how he saved it, but I got up next to him, I gave him a thumbs up, and then flew past it because I wasn't going to stay behind him anymore. No, but I'm pretty sure he had to change pants whenever he got to the next exit because he did not stick around. But I always wondered, what's the point of these signs? It's it's windy, but
they aren't lying, man.
Yeah, they aren't lying. But I'm glad to hear the truck made it. So is it now ready has it been Trev certified for Kid Adventures?
Oh yeah, I think so. I just wanted to do a longer road trip with myself so I could work out the kinks of what do I need to do for charging, all of that stuff, because this is my first EV. But yeah, definitely I think I know what I need to know. Yeah, and I charged it overnight at some national park campgrounds, just like the regular RV plugs, and it worked great. Nice. I definitely think I got it figured out. But yeah, I guess the highlight of the trip was definitely the Eureka Dunes on the north side of Death Valley. Mm-hmm. Man, like they're out there. So if you're not aware, like I want to say 4 or 5 months ago, Death Valley had some pretty substantial flooding. So it knocked out a bunch of their roads, and they're still like fixing the roads and getting all their infrastructure back in place. But since Eureka Dunes are pretty remote, previously you could drive through the park on a 4-wheel drive road to get to them, but that road is completely washed out. So we had to go out of the park on the western side, drive up to Big Pine, and go in on the north side of the park. So from Big Pine, we had to drive like 20-ish miles on a paved road, and then about another 20 on a dirt road that kept getting more and more and more washboardy as we as we got there. So we were out there. We thought we were going to be by ourselves, but we pulled up and there was this one retired gent out there. I think he was a photographer or something. But pulled in, it was pitch black because it's winter and the sun goes down at like freaking 4, which is rough. But yeah, we got up there and it was cold, so we set up our tents. And as we were setting up our tents, we felt the wind starting to kick up, and we had driven through some like little bit of snowstorm like in the pass we went through to get down there. And we all got in our tents. Like a half an hour later, it started raining in Death Valley. Well, this was technically Eureka Valley, but it's part of Death Valley National Park. But it rained for probably 7 hours.
Oh, wow.
Like not super, super hard. Like the wind kicked up, and if you didn't have everything, the tent set up for extreme weather, everything would have got wet. But actually, the couple that came with us, Doug and Brandy, both of their shoes were like sopping wet and holding water in the morning because the wind was whipping up under their vestibule.
That's the story behind the.
Yeah. So. Okay. Yeah, I'll get to that. But so yeah, we woke up the next morning and the sun hadn't come up over the mountains yet, but we looked around and all the mountains ringing us were all coated in snow. It was absolutely gorgeous. So down where we were like a couple degrees above freezing. So we were like, there was ice on our tent, on the top of our tents, because it actually dropped below freezing after we woke up. It got down to like 30, 31 or so after we woke up at like 7 or so. But so Doug and Brandy's shoes were sopping wet. So we were going to climb up the dunes, and they're like, well, I don't want to climb in these wet shoes. So one climbed in flip-flops and socks, and the other one climbed in Crocs. But we made it, climbed to the top of the tallest dunes in California, and for an absolutely beautiful view. Like when we got up there, the sun finally really came over the mountains and broke through the clouds, and it was actually evaporating the water off the dunes. Mm-hmm. So there was like clouds forming on the dunes and blowing over the top. It was a really, really great special experience. I will never forget it.
Those photos were cool.
But yeah. While I was bumming around being a dirtbag, what were you up to, Kyle?
Oh, just packing up my life and moving across the country. So the news, yes, I was not able to attend the trip because I was offered a job in Pennsylvania. And in the last month, I packed up in Boise and moved out, bought a house in Pennsylvania, moved in here. So if you're in Boise, stop waving at folks that look like Kyle. You can still wave at people. It's always good to make friends, but I will not be there. So you're going to have to start waving at people that look like Kyle in central Pennsylvania. But
I think we can do that.
Yeah. So it's just been a lot of travel miles. So I've traveled cross country in the last month 6 times. So I've driven it twice and I've flown it 4 times.
Man, that's brutal.
Yeah. All the trips went smoothly, except for the first one. I got into Pennsylvania, and they had a snowstorm blow in, and I-80 was shut down for about 2-ish hours, and I sat there and watched, 2 to 3 inches of snow accumulate, and while they cleared an accident on the highest point of I-80, it was involved several tractor trailers, but after that, it was smooth sailing. It's been kind of crazy. So I did go to grad school in Pennsylvania. I've got a lot of friends here. It's been a lot of fun. So I closed on the house December 7th, and within an hour and a half of closing, one of my friends texted me and was like, "Is today the day?" And I was like, "Yep." He was like, "Can I come over?" It's like, "Yeah, sure." Thinking it was going to be, the weekend or something like that. I asked him when, and he was like, "In an hour?"
I was like, "I'm already driving."
Yeah, he was actually doing a job pretty close to the Harrisburg area. So he came by. that was an adventure in itself. So he pulled in straight to the carport like he owned the place, and then ran into the house because he had to use the restroom. And at that time, my neighbors had come out, so I went over to meet my neighbors and saying hi and everything like that. And they turn around and go, "Is that your husband?" Like,
oh, very inclusive of you.
yeah. So, yep, trying to explain that to them. But and then that weekend, had a couple friends help me move all my stuff because I had it in storage in a friend's garage in State College area. Drove it over. Promptly bought about $1,000 worth of insulation, threw that in the attic,
Ooh,
because it needed it. Um, so yeah, and then I had to go back to Boise for a week. Hung out with my family there. And then I came back today, and one of my friends showed up. I had to take him to the airport here in Harrisburg. So my house is quickly turning into a caver flop house.
there you
So,
go.
but it's been fun. I'm really excited about this job. I actually started tomorrow. So it'll be good. It'll be good getting back to true geology. But well,
No,
I think
that's awesome because yeah, I know like we had been talking off air that I knew you were really excited about this job, and before it was like a full-time thing, you were like calling me. It's like, hey, oh, I got this job
yeah,
offer. I'm applying for this. It sounds perfect. So I'm really happy that you
yeah,
got it and you get to be back in PA because I know you like PA.
yeah. It's great. It feels like home. I think I'm in a really great location, with my house and everything. So I'm really stoked, about everything. And I've already met, um, several of my coworkers, on, well, the week that I closed. The Harrisburg Area Geologic Society had a meeting, and
Yeah.
it's hosted. Uh, they have a get together, where they get you get food and drinks, and then you go over and there's a talk, guest speaker, and everything like that. So I got to meet everybody. Everyone's super nice, super excited. Um, so yeah, I'm stoked. It's gonna be fun. Hopefully next month I say the same thing rather than, oh my god, what have I done? But I don't
Huge
think that's gonna
mistake.
be the case.
Oh,
So
cool.
I think that's pretty good for summaries. Rather than bore folks with that. But um, so I had an idea for the episode, Trev, since it's just you and me, that it's the end of the year. As we go into the new year, it's common to make resolutions, reflect on things that you've done in the past year, what you want to do differently, et cetera. And I thought that this would be an opportunity for us to do that, um, as you've titled it, a year in review,
Yeah.
um, where we sit down and we've learned a lot. We've had a lot of side discussions after we've recorded episodes with the guest. Even after we record, we sit around and talk for a while. But I thought, why not run through and do a quick summary of each episode and kind of what we learned, what stuck with us, and how we can do better in the upcoming year of 2023.
I like it.
We started off with Alex Van Pelt. My takeaway from that was that it's okay to travel alone. He does these epic road trips, and I know he's had you tag along on a few times, but
I
if he can't
infected
find
him
anyone.
with my outdoorsiness and got him into doing those trips. And then I started having like a family and I'm being married and stuff. And then I couldn't go on all of his trips all the time. So, but yeah, I agree. Like he
So you
really,
abandoned him.
yeah, pretty much. Like I think there's a meme out there that it's like a man and a woman and like their husky dog that's looking at very disapprovingly. It's like everything was okay until she came here. but
But
but yeah, like I you could say I abandoned him, but yeah, he really exemplifies how you can you can do fun things and have adventures by yourself. You don't always have to have a big group of people. If you're comfortable being alone, if you take the right safeguards, it's perfectly fine. You can go have adventures by yourself and have a great time. I mean, it's not for everybody. Like some people, like I think I mentioned in that podcast that episode that I found out on one of my shorter through hikes that I really don't enjoy hiking by myself for more than like a day. Like I just sit there in my tent and go, I wish there was someone here for me to talk to. And that's kind of the things you learn if you're on doing stuff by yourself like that. You learn it's like, oh, I like to have people around when I do these things. I mean, that's why I plan like our adventure cruise. That's why I plan those trips and say, hey, anybody that wants to come can come, because I like having people with me to share these outdoors experiences.
Yeah. The one thing that I am grateful for from Alex is he pointed out that you can look for cell phone coverage using the maps and everything like that. And so I started doing that, and it actually works out well. But especially because there were times whenever I drove, into places where I didn't have cell phone reception for 30, 45 minutes, and those maps were wonderful. So thank you, Alex, for that. Let's see, episode 2, Alex Aldecoa.
Alex part 2.
Alex part 2. Better and improved.
Yeah, improved. But yeah, if you didn't listen to that episode, Alex, the second Alex, is a whitewater rafting guide in the Idaho. I think it was the Salmon River. Is that correct? Or rivers in Idaho.
Well,
I'll leave it at that.
She is the marketing director for Air Water Sports, and but yeah, she is a rafting guide. Loves being out on the water. My takeaway from that is the importance of role models. She talked a lot about female role models that she had that kind of broke that barrier down and paved the way for her, and then how she makes it a point to be a role model for other girls that they're just as strong and capable as boys and men.
Mm-hmm.
And then she shared a couple stories where that there are differences between men and women and how they approach problems, and that it's important to speak up. Whenever she was on I think it was a backcountry ski trip, where she was uncomfortable and she spoke up, and the guys ended up agreeing with her. Whenever previously they were in all agreement, as we always are. It's oh yes, we can do this. So.
Yeah, like as you said, role models, having a role model in any endeavor, especially in the outdoors, is really helpful, because you get someone that has a little more experience, and you might be the person that doesn't really know anything about that thing, and that's what those role models are there for. They're usually somebody that are really they have a lot of passion for that subject or that activity, and they want to give you that information. They want you to enjoy it as much as they do. So role models are very, very important.
And then we went to cycling, our first episode on cycling.
Yeah.
That was with Stan the Man out of Colorado.
Yeah, I mean, I can take my takeaway for this one was
go for it.
That you shouldn't worry if you don't act or look like the average person that's doing an activity. So if you're not aware, Stan is an African-American man in cycling. And if you're not aware, cycling is a bunch of white dudes in spandex a lot. So, which that's just what it is. But Stan, he goes out there and crushes it every day. And because he looks a little different than the average person, he actually can be a role model to other people that look a little more like him. So he gets to be that person that makes that, like if some kid sees Stan out on his bike, then go, oh, wow, he looks like me. And I can cycle too. So it's really, really cool to that he can be that person that can open doors to cycling for people that don't look like the average cyclist. That was my big takeaway from Stan's episode.
Yeah, you nailed it. And shameless plug, Adventuring for Mere Mortals does have a team for RAGBRAI.
Yes.
Stan is on the team.
Yes, Stan is on the team, and we are accepting applications. So yeah, email us.
So I think I found one additional person, or at least they're kicking it around. So
nice.
Yeah, we'll be covering if they join, we'll have a wide range of ages, nationalities.
And that's our thing, man. Like, we want to try to get everybody included. And like, I'm always on the look. I've got a couple maybes that are still waffling around a little bit, but hopefully in a couple of months things will settle down for them, and I can get them on the team too. But excited. RAGBRAI looks like a good time. I'm excited about it.
All right. Then we went to Tebow, where he was talking about and I think this is exceptionally important, and I think it's whenever we kind of found our stride with the podcast, and we kind of made it our own and found our direction. But the idea that don't let fear stop you. I mean, he sailed across the Atlantic, with strangers, and he had never sailed before. And they had the experience. He trusted them. He was willing to learn a new skill. He embraced that growth mindset, and boom, he did something that very few people do. And how important it is to in that growth mindset, you can use fear as a motivator. You can change it from being something that you avoid to something that you embrace, as long as you keep it in check.
Yeah, definitely. Like Tebow, he just says yes to everything, and it's really great because I've been I was friends with him in college and just following him on Instagram. He just does adventures all the time, and it's always something crazy. Like, we need to have him back on at some point just to talk about more of his random adventures, because he could talk for hours and hours and hours about all the cool things he does. And it's just because he is open and saying, oh, yep, that sounds cool. I'm going to go do that now. And friendly too. Friendly, talking to everybody. And that's what opens up these opportunities for these adventures. And he's not afraid to go after it and try something new.
Yeah,
for sure.
He's my role model. Then let's see. Do we have POD after that?
Yes.
Right.
Felicia POD Hermosillo.
Man, we got schooled in that episode.
Yeah. So we learned how uninformed we can be in terms of we talked a lot about the difference between being minoritized or a minority. So minoritized is the action versus a minority is the result of that action. And yeah, we talked about a lot of issues. Like, we titled the episode "Getting Comfortable Being Uncomfortable," because if you're uncomfortable, at least in my point of view, if you're a little bit uncomfortable with a conversation or a subject, that's a sign you're growing, you're pushing your boundaries. And we definitely did that in that episode. We kind of hit on some episodes that are uncomfortable to talk about, but I think in the end it was good. It was a positive experience.
Yeah. And it evoked change in me, because I took what we had learned from that episode, especially the idea of where you can minoritize a group or an individual, and applied it in everyday life, at work, trying to be more inclusive, and actually pointing out that this idea of diversity and inclusion, it's the and that's important. Because you can have one without the other. It's that and that makes the difference. So that's one thing moving forward in the upcoming year, and especially in the new position, that I want to embrace and bring forward is that idea that we have the power to have both diversity and inclusion in everything.
So. Agreed. So after that, we had Beth Van Pelt, the cooler Van Pelt.
Yep.
And we talked about scuba. So, but the main takeaway that we kind of got from that is that she was able to take advantage of opportunities that are presented to her. So, and she went from having zero experience in scuba and diving to running a dive shop, managing a dive shop, and even teaching it in a matter of 6 years, which is crazy fast, if you ask me. So yeah, you just have to be willing and open for these opportunities to let them take you where they want, right?
Yep.
Like, and if you aren't open and don't have that growth mindset, we kind of keep coming back to that over and over again. If you don't have that growth mindset, being open, like she could have said, no, I'm going to go do this other thing. And I think she's way happier now because she let that opportunity happen.
Yep. And we also learned that Alex isn't her favorite. Completely out of context, but we're gonna run with it because,
of course, yeah. Because we know he's listening and he'll hear this.
All right, and then let's see. Then we got into caving with Sean Lewis.
In Kyle's wheelhouse.
Yes, and I was excited to have Sean on the show. And I think he did a fantastic job of, articulating that there are still unexplored places in this world, and you don't have to go, to another planet.
Yeah, planet or like out in the middle of an ice sheet in Antarctica or something like that, right?
Yeah,
like you can be fairly close to home.
Yep, and then the other thing is just his passion and drive really shone through.
Yeah.
And then we went back to Idaho, and we had BBB, Beers, Bikes, and Buses.
Yeah, Mary Beth and Brantley talking about their bike touring trip across the U.S. And yeah, I guess the big takeaway from that, so if you didn't watch the episode, they're in their mid to late 50s. So they went out there and crushed this cross-country bike trip, and their age didn't even play a factor. They just went out and did it, and I think inspired a lot. Like I know from talking to them, their YouTube channel inspires a lot of people to go out there and try cycling. And yeah, it's like and I know they really, really like that they're inspiring people every day to get out there and be active and get on bikes and love biking as much as they do.
Yep. Age ain't no thing.
That's for sure.
I really liked that when they talked about, cycling is something that really resonates with a lot of people because we do it all as kids.
Mm-hmm.
And that is true. It's something that you can relate to. And then we also had some fun stories like cows can be weaponized in certain situations.
Their backsides can be weaponized.
Yeah. Bright colored clothes save lives. Yeah, that was a lot of fun, especially hearing about. They gave us some good beta for RAGBRAI too.
Yeah, and we're gonna meet up with them for sure.
Oh yeah, yep. And then last but not least, our most recent guest, Twerk.
Yep, that beautiful human being.
Yep, and I think his upcoming project that he's currently working on really summarizes that episode and this podcast, and that's All Humans Outside. and that the outdoors are for everyone.
Yeah, it was a really good person to have on for like our last guest of the year, because it, like, as soon as I saw his project, and I said this on the episode, I was like, yep, we have to have him on, because it's like the idea behind his project is basically the idea of what we want to get through in this podcast. So just a perfect fit. Yeah, everybody should be outside. Everybody enjoys the world or the outdoors in a different way, but they're all equally as cool. So get out there and do it.
So what have we learned in the last year, Trev?
Yeah. So I think I just started hitting on that in the little summary of Twerk's episode, but the thing is that no two people's experiences or journeys are the same. I mean, that's kind of like a given generic thing to say, but it's really true. Like, everybody has a slightly different thing that they love the most about the outdoors, or they enjoy doing the most in the outdoors, or they experience in a different way because of their background, like just their physical appearance
and interest.
Like, I know Kyle, just from a physical point of view, I'm 6'4", so I'm like, not quite a foot taller than Kyle, but we experience things very differently because I have to duck for things, or I'll tell a story. I don't think we told this story on the podcast before.
Well, first, let's back up. A foot taller is a bit generous, Trev.
Okay, fair. Okay. Yeah, you're not that short. I'm sorry. But I will remember this story for the rest of my life. So when we were in field camp, so it was near the end of our geologic field camp. And at field camp, if you're not aware, you are basically out in the outdoors for a good month, at least at our school. And we're at the end of it. We were wrapping up, and we had an opportunity to hike down into the Grand Canyon. So Kyle, he knows what story is coming now. So that ended up being, I think, 6 of us and our professor, Dr. Hogan, all went from the North Rim. We hiked down to Cottonwood Canyon one day, and then we came up the next day. And it was the middle of July, so it was crazy hot. I want to say it was
July, close to July 4th.
Yeah, at Cottonwood Camp, which isn't the very, very bottom, it was like 1:15 in the shade or something. It was ridiculously hot in the middle of the day. So the next morning we got up at like 3:30 or 4 so we could hike out and not absolutely melt or get heat exhaustion. So we were all kind of hiking together for like a mile. And then me and Kyle started hiking faster. And then we kind of, I think we both had the same idea at the same time. It's like, let's see who can get out of here faster. And it was all good until we got to, I want to say it's called Sipapu Tunnel or something like that.
Yep.
And after that point, they have railroad ties in the trail for the mules. And Kyle found out very quickly that I didn't have to take 2 steps in between each one. So I could step on a tie and go to the next tie and go to the next tie and the next tie. So I was very quickly gaining ground on Kyle and pulling away. And I remember just hearing him cursing behind me, like, you and your stupid long legs. So that was a long story to say, we experience the outdoors very differently.
Yes. Yeah. But that was a rough trip whenever we all, because you and I got to the bottom first, or to the campground first, and then we went off to Cotton. What were the falls? We couldn't even get there on our last trip because
it was Ribbon Falls.
Yeah, Ribbon Falls. And man, it was hot. You get in the water and then you lay out just to cool off. But didn't we leave at like 4 or 4:30 in the morning to hike out? And we were lucky because we never actually hiked on the way out in the sun. We were in the shade the entire time.
Like the last hour, maybe the sun was kind of coming up, but it was still morning, so it wasn't terrible.
Yeah. But yeah, that was actually the hike down. Yeah, that is something that is seared in my brain because it was so hot.
Yeah. I don't
Yeah.
remember it being terribly hot downside. I think I was just amazed with all the views and part of the trail that's like cut into the sheer rock face. So it's fairly thin. It's like maybe
Well,
3 or 4 foot wide in some places.
yeah, it was whenever we actually got to the campground and there
Oh
was no
yeah.
shade and it was
It
that
was
was that
it was
was yeah.
brutal. Like I was on the verge of having heat exhaustion for sure. It was
Yeah.
not the smartest plan. It was hot. It was really, really hot.
Having to wait for the permit, get the permit, and then start hiking down.
Yeah.
We did it the second time. We definitely learned, demonstrated that we are capable of learning by leaving so early.
Even so early. And don't hike down to the bottom of the Grand Canyon in July. Like we did it in
Yeah.
like November. So it was better.
Yep.
But again, okay, back to the topic. But what else did we learn?
Uh yeah. One thing, there's a lot of gatekeepers out there. One being a price wall, for gear and different things.
Yeah.
And then there's, you know, actual gatekeepers where for whatever reason, no, this is my sport, this is my area, whatever. And that's not cool.
No. Like I was hopefully we don't offend people, but I was talking to Stan a couple of months ago, and since he's lived in Boulder for like I'd say a year or so now, um, he gets really annoyed at all of the Colorado native stickers and bumper stickers because it's the most annoying thing. And that's a form of gatekeeping. It's like I was here first. I'm not one of these people that moved in, even if that person moved there 5 years ago. It's like, oh yeah, I'm just going to put a native sticker on my truck, my car, my Subaru if you're in Boulder. But
Yeah, well, one thing I experienced in Boise was there's a lot of folks that move from Arizona, California. They're selling their houses, they're moving, they're buying one or two houses uh, in Boise, and then renting one, living one. Uh, but whenever it's actually kind of so bad that whenever you meet people and you're like, "Oh, are you from here?" Because Idahoans are very, very proud people,
yeah.
and rightfully so. uh, but you'd ask them like, "Oh, are you from here?" No, I'm from Washington or I'm from Oregon, somewhere in adjacent state. And then
Mhm.
after you talk to them for a while and they realize that, oh, you're not actually from around here either. You moved in, then they'd be like, oh, I'm from California or
Oh
I'm from
really?
Arizona.
Oh.
Yeah. Um, yeah, there's I in and there's I've seen there was bumper stickers that I was seeing that, like a good neighbor, stay over there. And it's
Oh.
and it's Idaho and then California,
Yeah.
and they're geographically accurate,
Mm.
and it's like, whoo. So,
I mean, I on the flip side of that, I do see the frustration of you lived
yes.
somewhere and then a bunch of people come moves and it gets crowded, but at the same time, yeah, like
Well, one of the motivations to actually leave is uh, getting priced out on
yeah,
rent,
that's the
and
unfortunate side
I
effect.
really shouldn't have been, but so that's unfortunate. Um,
Yeah.
but I think we're getting off on a tangent again. How about we go into because this is all good and to review things and talk about what we learned, but what about putting it into practice? Moving forward in the upcoming year, make some resolutions,
Okay.
some
I like
goals.
we can do that. Yeah, I think number one, I like using this term, but we got to keep a growth mindset. We got to be open to changes. So if anybody has any suggestions on what we could do better, send us an email. And yeah, we might end up adding your features or any changes that you think might make the podcast better. We're open to making changes to make this a more enjoyable experience.
Yep.
What else? Don't be a gatekeeper.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, outdoors for everyone. We'll go back to gatekeeping, but yeah, I mean, don't be a dick. Like, just simple as that. Like, we all want to enjoy the outdoors. We all want to have a good time. Like, what makes you the person that gets to say, no, this isn't for you. This isn't for any other people.
I think I'm going to tackle that by looking for opportunities to volunteer, to engage underrepresented youth, and get them outside and exposed to different things.
Yeah, dude.
So that'll be good. And then I guess there's an even simpler thing that we could do, and that is whenever we're outside, actually talk to folks outside of our group, and just say hi and learn a little bit more about them, and then hear more about their story, because I think with that'll help us frame future episodes, become better interviewers.
Yeah,
we have made a lot of progress listening to the first episode and going back through. I think that we've made a lot of progress.
Yep.
On many fronts, but
I'll apologize on behalf of both of us for the first couple episodes. The audio was terrible. I think we figured it out. We're better at it anyway now on the audio side, and I think we're getting better at actually interviewing people. But yeah, on another thing that I want to do this year on like a personal note is, like, I plan our adventure cruise trips. I want to invite more people on those trips that haven't been with us and maybe don't go as outdoors as much. Even if they say no, it's like, hey, I'll invite them, come out, try to grow our adventure crew, get more people exposed to the outdoors. For sure.
I'm game.
Cool. And on like a podcast front, we're going to get more guests, try to cover more diverse subjects and people from different backgrounds too. So hopefully not more people that look like me and Kyle. Try to widen views a little bit and get people with different experiences that maybe experience the outdoors and the world in a different way than we do. So
yeah, the coolest thing was with our guests, and I want to say a thank you to all of them.
Oh yeah,
they
absolutely.
all gave us 2 or 3 people that we could follow up with that they felt would be a better guest than themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a common thread through all of our guests. That very humble. Took a little coaxing to get them on the show, to get them talking, sharing their stories. But then they gave us some great leads on people to follow up with. So we'll be doing that. Well, shall we wrap this up, Trev?
Yeah, sure. I'll do my little wrap ups. So,
do we have any reviews?
No more reviews. No new reviews. Come on, everybody, step up. Yeah. So if anybody wants to help us out and support the podcast, just the 5-star review is the way to go. So, I mean, Apple is generally the best place to do the reviews, because that's where most people listen to our podcast. It's not by a lot, but that's the majority. So yeah, 5-star review on Apple. If you put it in there, I'm going to read it. Not just a rating, a review. Write the review and I will read it aloud. But yeah, if you want to, if anybody has any suggestions for the podcast, either guests or like suggestions on how we might organize the podcast, like our format, we're open to changing formats a little bit. You can email the podcast at adventuringformeremortals@gmail.com. You can also reach out to us on Instagram at meremortalpod. We have a Discord. The notes to that are in the show notes if you want to join that. It's kind of quiet over there, but I'm more than happy to get more people talking over there as well. But you can also reach out to me on social media, because Kyle really doesn't have social media. So you can wave to Kyle if you're in Central PA. But yeah, you can follow me on Instagram at Trevor Bowman, 2 L's, 2 N's. But yeah, I mean, till next month and next year. Yes. We'll see y'all later.
Yep. Happy holidays. Stay safe if you're traveling. Take this opportunity to spend time with friends and family, and don't forget to get outdoors.
Absolutely. See y'all later.
Till next time. Bye.
Bye.